Okay, let's get started with first figuring out what we need for our supplies. First off, you are going to need a rock. In this particular project, you can see a round or ovals. A lot of these guys are oval. It's fun to look for rocks. Just stay out of your neighbor's garden. Stay out of your doctor's office's landscape, but otherwise, it's good to be out there looking for rocks. That's one of my favorite things to do. You're looking for something that's smooth, relatively smooth. You'll know a good one when you see it. Oh, my kitty. She has something to say about this. She wants us to paint a kitty rock. So you are going to need good lighting. I happen to have a little light over here that I love. When I get it going and turn it on, it gives me great light. So make sure you have some nice bright light when you're working. And you need a vessel that will hold clean water to clean your brushes, along with some paper towel. This is for wiping, obviously. And your tools. You need a pencil to mark guidelines on the rock and an eraser as well. My pencil is a hard leaded, it is, an H9. The number 2s that we have laying around, they make a pretty dark line, so just if you have to use one of those, that's fine. Be sure to use a light touch and it'll erase easier if we need to erase it. The Micron pen is optional. I love it. It is a permanent pen that I use to sign and do fine details in black. Again, it's not essential, but it is nice to have one. Now, the brushes. This is probably about a 3/4 inch flat, great for priming. It's had a lot of use and love, as you can see, but it's good for doing the priming of our rocks, which we will do with a coat of white before we get started on the details. This brush right here is another flat. It's smaller. It is probably a 1/4 inch flat. I love it for getting into going in on details. Let me just get in here a minute so you can see, just can get right up and go right along the edge. I love this flat brush. We'll use that. Also, there are round brushes that are popular. This is all personal preference and what you feel comfortable with. I have 3 sizes of round brushes to use to fill into spaces. This brush right here is a liner brush. It is a one liner. There's script liners, there's liner brushes. They have long hairs, fine, and they make a nice point, and they're great for detail. In our work on our rock today, this is the brush to use on the lines in the mask, the straps, and the line that separates the forehead from the cap. Also, what I have here, I'm going to grab these. These are styluses. These have had a lot of love as well. They're basically dotting tools. They have fine points, different sizes for making dots. It's not really necessary to have specific dotting tools. They are handy, but anything will do that you find around the house, such as toothpick, or a straight pin, both sides, the pointy side or the top head of the pin. Also, eraser tips work good, and the ends of your paintbrushes are great for dotting. This project requires quite a bit of dotting on the caps, as you can see, and you can have fun trying to figure out what you want to use to make your dots. Palettes. These are little palettes that I got at Dollar Tree, 6 in a pack. I use these all the time, especially for my acrylic paints. Once the paint has dried, I will just take I have a designated old spoon that I go ahead and scrape these out, wash them, and reuse them. But anything that has a little well in it, you can use an old plate, but anything that you have laying around that you think you can put your little dabs of paint in will work for palettes. Our paints are acrylics. Craft acrylics are what I'm using here. Several brands are on the market. I'm not endorsing any specific brand. I have different ones. They aren't expensive and they dry fast. Also, they're really forgiving. If you make a mistake, you don't like a line, you don't like a color, you can just go over it again with acrylics. So I think you'll really enjoy working with acrylics if you haven't worked with them before. This right here is the basic white that we'll be using for priming the rock, painting it white to begin with so that it'll be bright and our other colors will show through instead of the natural of the rock. There's plenty of need to use the rock in its natural way in different designs, but this one specifically because of the bright colors, we were going to go ahead with a primer coat of white. Also, you're going to see I have these two right here, which I use for skin tones, and I mix them to create all kinds of ethnicities on these COVID people. And the nice thing about these are they are bright, so I have some bright colors. Brights are nice for the caps, and I didn't pull it out, but I will have it when we get started. It's just kind of a robin egg blue on the face masks. So you can take any blue, and if you want to lighten it down with a white, acrylics are great for mixing together and making new colors. And also I want to just tell you, I keep this is not necessary, but I use this little spray bottle of water to spray my paints in between, and I'll sometimes put a cover over them. Sometimes it's aluminum foil, piece of paper or something so that they don't dry out, because acrylics are quick drying and sometimes I'm in between colors and I want to go back. So I will use my spray bottle to moisten them up, keep them moist. When the project is done, these have all of my rocks actually have a finish, a varnish clear coat, if you call it polyurethane. There's different products on the market, but it's important to seal your rock, whether it stays inside or outside. So these have a high gloss clear coat on them. This is the one that I'm using right now, but I use several different types. This is Krylon Triple Thick Crystal Clear Glaze. I get it at Walmart. You can get it at Home Depot as well. So you'll be using that or some type of a finishing product to seal your rock. And that's going to do it for our supplies. I'm set up at my dining room table. I love it here. This is the hub of my home, and it serves well for projects and dinner. So be sure you're in a comfortable spot, ready to set up, and have plenty of light. And we'll get started now. All right, here we go with the priming. This is easy street. I'm going to shake up my my white paint. And I don't think I mentioned that I use matte paints, not gloss. You'll see both out there. Putting a little bit of white in my well. I have that flat, larger brush, and I'm ready to get going. Often I'll put a little water in when I do this. I'll wet my brush down and I'm wetting it. You can't see me do that, but I just dipped it in my water. And we are going to go forward on getting this completely coated with the white and dried. Once in a while I'm putting a couple coats on. Now that my rock is primed, it's dry, it is ready for some crucial markings with a pencil. What we're doing here now is we are going to mark off a line around the head for the cap. And I would say that it's not quite the halfway point from top down, maybe a little bit above that point. We're also going to put in the pattern for the mask. And what I will be doing, and I want to make sure that you can see how this goes. The camera angle is not the best. I'm brand new at this. But this is sort of a center, I would call this a center point for the mask, and it's sort of an eyeball thing. But let's first start out with our cap line. Bear with me, I'm going to be marking my cap, as I said, about, maybe it's not quite 2/3 down. Everybody looks different in their caps, so there's no perfect point. And you have fun with this and probably come up with a design that will be different than this. So I'm going all the way around the rock. I notice when I go around this rock, it doesn't meet up. I've noticed when I've made these that this point is down lower than this one. So we just kind of eyeball and work out something in the middle, and heads aren't perfect, I guess. And we can adjust with our pencil line. Like, I'm not sure I agree with how that line actually is. No, it's not too bad. This is the front of it. So this is the top of, this is the cap, and this is going to be the face. I'm going to work my mask now, and that I'm looking for that center of the, like if you were thinking about the nose being in the center, down, hard to describe, just, let me just show you where I'm going with this. Mask is down. That's my starting point for the top of the mask, that dot in the middle. Okay, and I'm just going to freehand a mask that's going to be this shape, and it goes under the chin. I think it just gives it a more of a realistic look if you go, not that this looks like a real person, but if you go under the chin, it just looks like the mask is grabbing onto the face nicely. So let's do that. I'm going to just go ahead and draw my lines. I give it a little bit of a swipe to the right, a little bit of swipe to the left, and that's why we're using pencil. If we don't like something we've done, we can just go ahead and erase it. Once I've done sort of little arced curves, and let me show you that, and that is far from perfect, but it works out okay. Maybe I am going to adjust my line just a little bit. This is how we roll over here. There we go. I'm going to go straight down along the sides of the face. Let me show you how I did that. So that is the side of the face, and I'm going to go under the chin. I'm just kind of following what would be a chin, and we are good. So we're at a point now where we can go ahead and, maybe it looks a little crooked. I drive myself crazy. I'm not going to worry about that. You'll know when you're working with it. Well, let's just go a little bit down further. That's why everything's correctable. With pencil and with acrylic paints, you can switch anything out and redo it. Don't drive yourself crazy. It's not worth it. This is fun. So you're going to start painting. We're going to pick a cap color. We're going to do the skin tone, and we're going to do the mask. You'll see me do this in fast motion. I'll start out slow though, so you can see how I'm using that other smaller flat brush that I love. All right, we're gonna get started with a cap that is made out of the color Cobalt Blue. It's a really nice, vibrant blue. Deep color. I have that flat brush that I really like. And here we go. So it's easy. I'm going to put a little water on my brush. I do like to have a little bit of water flowing with my paints. And I'm just going to use slight quick strokes and go up to my line, slowing it down up here. And this is why I really like this brush. I feel like I can just get a nice straight line right off the bat. It might be a little hard for you to see how that's coming out. Let me do a little bit more. Not bad. So we're just going to go ahead and paint that. My blue is complete now. Almost dry. Looks good. I love this blue color. I'm ready to go on to the skin. And this is fun. I'm just thinking about my skin tone. Let me do some pouring and mixing. I have this color, it's called golden brown. I have flesh tone, 2 different brands. I'm going to put a drop of each in my, well, I'm always shaking these things. Oh, this one's stuck. There we go. So here we go with a drop, a couple drops of the flesh tone. And now some of the brown. And I'm going to be mixing. There they are. I think I'm going to mix with my round brush. I added a little water onto it. This is fun. And who knows what the ethnicity of this COVID caregiver is. I guess we'll have to check with Ancestry DNA. It's going to be kind of a medium color skin. All right, I'm going to try to wipe some of that paint off. I'm going to go in. I'm not going to waste the paint. I guess I'll just, oops, I had a little bit of blue. There's never a perfectly dry rock, it seems. So I'm just going to use up what's on my round brush. And then I'm going to put it in the water to clean it. That's good. Going back to my flat brush that I like. Let's see. It's just going to do the same process again with meeting up to the blue line. Being a little careful with my brush strokes. Just following along the mask lines that I penciled in earlier. The back of the head. I'm just going to make sure I go all the way around and hit every part of the skin, except I will, of course, leave the mask unpainted. I'm ready now to do the mask, which will be done in Blue Cotton by Apple Barrel. It's kind of a masky colored blue. Our filling and painting technique is going to remain the same. I'm going to stick with my 1/4-inch flat brush. Here's where we're at so far, so you can see. And now we're going to form that mask. It's time to add some lines. Here's where we're at. We have our mask painted in, our skin, and our cap. Now we're ready for some details. For the mask, there are some mask lines that give it a little bit more of a realistic flair. So I'm going to pencil those in as my guidelines with the pencil, and I'll follow them with my script liner, my liner brush. Also, the mask elastics that go over the ears. So we'll add those in as well. And then I'm just going to be painting that, taking on the outline of the mask as well, and that rim of the cap. So I'm just going through and adding these little lines. Let me go ahead again. There's this guidelines that I'll use for my painting. There's 4 on the mask. They're light. It might be hard to see on the camera, but I want you to try and see if you can see those lines. And now I'm going to pencil in my mask lines as well that are going straight up to go over the ears. It's going to start looking better. Realistic. Well, sort of. That's cute. I want to wet down my brush and get a nice fine tip. I'm going back into my white. We're working with white on these. And this is the detail part. Try to use a steady hand and go slow. If I don't like the way something comes out, I can just repaint it. Oh my goodness. Those are the dogs. Shh, be very quiet. So I have these lines. They're pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and do the outline of my mask. I've finished my lines, so let me give you a look. Using that script liner brush, went all the way around. So the mask lines, the mask outline, the bands that go up over the ears, and the rim of the cap. We're going to do the eyes now. I'm going to pencil in guidelines for the eyes themselves. They're just ovals. I don't know, you might want to experiment if you want to do some different ethnicities. I've seen eyelashes for females. It gives it more of a look of a female. But what I have here is ovals. White And then within the white is a dotted black pupil. And then the little white dot is a shiny spot to look so that the person doesn't look like they're staring through you. So let's see how this goes. I've got my pencil and I'm going to go ahead and pencil those ovals for the eyes. My person I'm making, my COVID person, doesn't have a lot of space for eyes, so I'm going to have to work this in. We'll see. They all have a different personality once you put the eyes on. That's what makes them fun. Already I can see that the way I drew my second eye, it's smaller than my first eye. Let's try some paint. I'm using my small round brush to do these ovals, and I'm using my white paint. You can't see me, but I'm adding water. I guess I add water more than I realized. Not a lot of water, just enough to keep the brush moving freely. That's what I think is the goal, is to get this brush to move. And I give the brush a twist when it's in the well to try to bring it to a tip, especially on a fine spot like this that we're working on. This is a little tedious trying to get the oval of the eye. I've had to go back and forth with trying to fix an eye that would be misshapen. Let's see how it goes. When I'm working on these projects, I'm always thinking, is there a better way to do this? Would I be better off using a different brush? It opens up room for experimenting. The whites of the eyes are in place. They're dried pretty well. And we're going to add the pupils. They're black. And I'm going to use my stylus dotting tool. I'm going to be using the larger size tip to add the pupils with my black paint. And when I do this, I want to add the pupils in the same position in each eye. It might be interesting if you don't do that. But my reason for doing that is so that the person doesn't look like they're dizzy, incapacitated. Maybe you'd like that look on yours. So here are my pupils. They look good. I think they look cute. They're good. Person looks like they're doing fine. Our little COVID caregiver. I right away clean that stylus off on the paper towel. It tends to get gunked up quickly on that, so it's good to keep those styluses and dotting area tools clean when you're done. I need to let that dry, and as soon as that dries, I'm going to add my little white dot that goes on so that my caregiver doesn't look like they're staring into space or staring through me. But so far, so good. Now that the pupils have dried, they're all set. I'm going to do those little white dots, and then we're going to move on to doing the decorative part of the cap. That's really going to be a fun part. So I'm using a very fine tip stylus, and maybe if you didn't have these styluses, you'd want to use the tip of a pin, that would work. Again, I'm trying to put these little dots in just about the same spot in each pupil so that it's consistent. I haven't gotten a good dot on the one side. Hang on a second. I'll try one more time. Let's see. Oh, I guess that's okay. There we go. Now right away, I'm going up to the cap. I want to be careful not to bump into these eyes that are drying, but these little teeny dots shouldn't take very long. I'm back to my larger size stylus tip, or you maybe want to use the end of a paintbrush. And I'm going to be making a flower design on the cap. I'm starting with my stylus and starting with the center of the flower, which will be white in this case. And I've been doing these flowers slightly off center. You can put them anywhere you think you want to, and you can make as many as you want to. Most of mine have had 1 or 2 flowers. This one is not the biggest rock, so I think we're going to just be able to fit 1 flower on there. I'm going to add petals. The petals are going to be in a really lively, it's called Lime Tree Green by Apple Barrel. I'm using my smaller round brush to do these petals. And it's just kind of a freehand type deal. Going around the flower. If you want to, you can put some guidelines in with your pencil if you feel more comfortable. It's up to you. I think it's been fine just to go ahead and paint in the petals going around. I'll show you in just a minute. Let me go all the way around. Well, here, I'll show you so far how it's looking. I'm just going all the way around. And you don't have to put flowers on your cap. You could just put dots or make little squares or diamonds. I mean, you can do just about anything you want. It's fun to get creative. Change things up a little bit. All right, so I have a flower. Not too bad. I can see where the blue is coming through on some of it, so I'm just going to go back through, and it's always good to let it dry, but I'm going to go back through with a little more heavy paint on the brush and try to add a little bit more paint to these petals so that you don't see the blue. Only on a couple, I guess, that I see. And I'm getting ready. I'm thinking about adding some other dots to the cap as well. I'm going to use white just as an embellishment. So here I go, and I'm using a medium-sized dotting tool. You can do any size. I'm going to just go around and give it some random dots. They're just going on. They're fun. Just be careful not to touch the paint that's wet. And that center flower will have another dot within the dot. The white dot will be, I'll put a smaller dot that probably will go with the blue of the cap. Things have to dry a little bit first, so let's let that dry. We're getting close to being finished on our project. This is exciting. Once we do this, if you want to, I like to sign my pieces that I make. I have them each signed. I'm going to show you while this little paint dries. This is the back of one of the ones that's finished, and it says "Be well," and it actually is backwards in that camera, isn't it? So, and it has my signature and the year. You don't have to do that. I like to do it though. So, and I use my Micron pen to do that. In fact, I think I'm going to do that while I'm waiting. I'm going to be very careful. I say that, and then all of a sudden something will get bumped or smeared, and then I'm having to redo it. But if I just carefully go to the back and do my signature. I have a visitor here. It's a dog. They're ready to eat dinner. It's dinner time. Shh. Be quiet. I'm penciling in, I like the words "be well," because we're all trying to stay healthy during this COVID issue. There we go. The only thing I have that I need to do is put that little embellishment dot in the center of my flower with my blue. Let's see if we can get away with this. The white should be dry. I'm rushing a little bit here to get this project completed. I'm going to see if I can get that blue dot right in the middle. Yeah, that's really good. No problem. Even though it needs to sit and dry just a little bit more. This is our buddy, our COVID caregiver. We're going to go ahead and do the sealing process with the clear coat, crystal clear glaze to seal it up, and then we're going to be ready to give it away.